all love making promises, isn't it? But when someone breaks it, it really hurts, right? But let me tell you one thing, if you will ever make a promise in JavaScript, then it will always return you the promise you made. So in this episode, we are going to learn everything about promises in JavaScript. We will learn how to create a promise, how to use it with then and catch, and also we will look into async and await, and at last we will see how we can use try and catch to catch all the rejection which promise makes. This is Shivam and you are watching CreativeJE. So let's get started. Guys, first let's see how the things used to be with callbacks. So let's create a callback function and I'm calling it callback.js, and we usually use this on events such as when we add a event listener, and then we add a click and then we specify a function. So this is the function which gets called back, and this will be called whenever user will click on it. So in these cases callbacks is pretty useful, but when we need to wait around, then it doesn't make any sense and it just becomes very complicated. Let me show you how. If we create a set timeout, then also it takes a function as an argument and it calls it back after few seconds. Let's call it I am called after, let's log it, I am called. Okay, so let's run it with Node.js, node callback. So you see that it is waiting 1 second before it is being called. So what we can actually do here, we can create our own callback so that we can pass that. So now we will create a function called wait for me. Okay, so what this function is going to do is that it will just wait, and the first thing which is going to take is whatever the time, and the function which is going to be called after that time. Okay, so function to call. Okay, I am usually people write it as a callback, but I just want to make things way clearer here, so that's why I am doing it. And if we just do a set timeout, all right, and we will put time here, and we will just call this function by passing the time. So function call, and we will send the message. So our message will be I waited, right? I waited, let's say whatever the amount of seconds, so time divided by 1000. So we pass millisecond, it will I waited this much seconds. Okay, alright, this is pretty simple. And now what we need to do is that, so when we will wait for me, so first we will have to pass time here, as you can see. So we will pass 2000, so it means 2 seconds, and then we can pass a anonymous function to here, and just like this, and we will get the message here or whatever. So now we can do is that we can log it into the console. So message, all right, this is our callback function. Let's run it again. So you can see it waits 2 seconds and then it prints. All right, now what we can do is that how we will check that if it is a, I can literally pass nothing, or I can just pass is, all right. So like if we say something like this, and then I waited n seconds, so none seconds. Alright, so how do we prevent this if there is something error? But usually we don't get error, so in that's why we use callback. In callbacks, in most cases we don't get errors. Alright, so now let's add some checking here, and then we will do is that, so let's add a if else statement. Like if there is time, people can pass null value to if there is time, and and what we need to check that the time is a number. So we can use number from JavaScript and we can use is integer from there, and we can check if time is integer or not. If people are passing negative values, then it will not work. So then we will just do this. Alright, paste it here, and in the else statement what we can do is that we can function to call, and we will pass a new error. So this is how we do. So we will create a new error and we will pass whatever message we wanted. So let's say what the fuck what's wrong with you. Okay, and let's see how this goes. And here we will have to make a null value first. Alright, so here we go, and if we run it, so you can see that we are having an error here. What the fuck, what's wrong with you? Alright, so our this function did not run. Alright, so here what we need to do is that the first thing which we will get here is that the error, and then we will get a message here. Alright, so now we can do if else again here. So you can see that how complicated it is getting. So if there is an error, then we are going to do console.error. It will look same in the node, but in browser it will look different. Otherwise what we will do is that we will print a message, log whatever the message we get. So let's now try something 101. So let's see, I waited 0.01 seconds and this is fine, and if we pass a null value there, then again we should get an error. Alright, this is how we used to do things. Now let's move to how we can deal with these things and not mess so much and don't make so much mess and don't do error checking like this. That's why we went for promises in JavaScript. What promise does is it says wait for me and I will tell you if it is going to work or if it is not going to work, if it's success or if it's false. I will do that. I will do everything for you. So let's create a promise. So we will first call this promise with then. So we are going to use then and catch here. Alright, again, so let's create. How do we create a promise? So the promise is pretty easy. So we will just call const wait for me, same function, and we have to just pass time here. So we will just pass time and create an arrow function. Alright, and then we are going to return a promise new. We write new keyword, it creates a new object. So promise is an object, promise object, and in the promise we pass two things. We pass resolve, we get resolve, and reject. Okay, and then what we can do is that if something is successfully done, we can resolve it, otherwise reject it. If there is an error, we just reject it. Alright, so let's see how we will do this here. So we can just copy this and I will add one more thing here, else if people have defined time but they are passing a string or something, and at the end what we will say that, and let's remove this to function to call, we will just call it resolve. Okay, resolve. But if there is an error, what we will do is that we will reject it. It's pretty simple and we don't need this new error thing because it just throws an error which is waste, which is completely waste. Alright, and again we will say reject. You can pass anything. For now I am just passing. You can pass functions, strings, objects, methods, whatever you want to pass. So, oh no, I will now say, oh no, oh man, you are piece of shit, you didn't specify the time. Okay, so when someone doesn't specify anything, we will throw this error. If everything is good, we will wait for that time and we will resolve it. So first what we did is that first we created this function which accepts time. You can put multiple arguments there, and then what we do is that we return a promise so that this function becomes a promise, and we get resolve and reject from this promise. And if we have something successful and it can wait, maybe you can make a network request, you can do make a for loop, and whatever you want to do, you can do that operation, and after that resolve will be called. Alright, so these are the function which are being in asynchronous. They are not synced, they are like, it will be in the async. Alright, okay guys, so how do we use it? So we use it by using then. So for this case we are going to use then and catch. So wait for me, and we will pass whatever number, 1 second, 100 and 1001 millisecond, and then if there is something, if this is successful, then what do we do? Whatever we get, we will just log it. Okay, we will log it. Okay, we are going to log it. But how do we catch any error? So dot catch. If there is any error, then what we do is we also console dot error. Okay, so it will give a error. So let's run it. See, it waited 1.001 seconds. Alright, so now how do we make it false? So we can just do is copy this 3 times, and first what we will do, we will just make it a string, and then we will put nothing, or we can pass the null value. So we will get all these 3 different checking errors. Alright, you can add as many as you can. So let's run it again. So see, first, what the fuck, what's wrong with you? First this happened because user is passing an string when he needs to pass an integer, and here you did not specify time, so these function get called. But see, this is the async behavior which I am talking about. So but this function, it waited for 1 second. Alright, so these all will be run before anything. So let me show you. If I make it another, if I keep it like 100 millisecond, still it will run after these two, because they are just throwing the error and it is waiting. Alright, so let's do it. Okay, see, this logged first and then this logged at last. Alright, okay, now let's move to async and await. So we will just do async await.js. So how do we do things here? So we will just literally copy this here, and we will use first create an async function. How we do that? So let's create a normal arrow function. We will call it run me, or whatever you want to call it, you can call it, and we write async here, and we are not passing any arguments here. And it will be called, how it will be called? It will be just called like this, run me. Okay, and what we do here is that we use something called try catch. So what try does is that it just tries to make things happen, make things work. But if anything goes wrong, the catch guy is here, so it will catch anything which goes wrong. So let me show you how we use await here. And to use await, you will always have to wrap your function inside async, and so we will just await what we did here. So let's look, wait for me, we call it wait for me. So I will just call it wait for me. But where will we store the data? So to store data, we use a const res whatever. This is the normal practice. You can name it whatever, or you can just call it message. Alright guys, and then what it will do is that it will wait until we get a message here. So then only we can log that message. See, message node async await.js. Okay guys, so we wrote this function wrong. It's wait for me. It should work now. Let's run it again. So I waited 1 second and this logged, and this will run before, like if we will remove await, see what we get. We will get an object, promise object here. So see, promise pending. It is still waits, but we get our message printed. And if we will await this, then it will wait for the promise to be resolved or rejected, and then we can catch anything that happens, or we can let's create another await. Like we will just try to log the error here. So wait for me, await, wait for me. Okay, we will leave, we will put nothing, just put a string. We want the WTF error, it's perfect. And we can just do console.error here, and we can just put the error message. Alright, now let's run it. So I waited 1 second. First this thing happened, but when we did this, there was an error. So it got caught in this catch block. All right, you understanding, guys? So this is pretty easy. So this is the try catch. Usually you should do this whenever you are using await. And if you are 100% sure, you can never be 100% sure that your promise will always be resolved, and then only use this directly. Otherwise, always put this in try catch block. So if I await again, so I can directly also console.log here. What I can do is await, wait for me, and we can just pass, let's make it 2000. All right. And even if I make it less, then what will happen is that it will wait before, it will wait for this to be resolved. Then only these things are going to run, and this will wait for this, and then this will run. All right. So we are making it in a sync order by using await. Okay. See, I waited 1 second, and in the first we got this error. That's why this did not work. If we get any error, and it will not be proceeded further. So let's comment that out, run it again. See, I waited 1 second and I waited 0.2 seconds. So this is how things will work, and you can just do a lot of things with this. Okay guys, now I am gonna be showing you some of the promise methods, such as race, Promise.race, Promise.allSettled, Promise.all. So let's dig into it. Let's create a promise method file, promise methods.js. Ding ding. Let's paste our function. Whole thing should be copied. Alright. I hope you understood all of this. If not, then please tell me. Okay, so here we have this try catch block, but what can we do here? So let's get rid of this. So let's call promise await. We will await again. We will still need, because promise is a promise and it cannot be broken. And Promise.all, what this does, it fulfilled promise, but it rejects. Let me show you. You can see we can pass any promise here. So we will pass some of the promise in arrays. So wait for me. Like 1 second as always, and I will, let's make it promises. Okay, let's run it. Node promises methods. Okay, I waited 1 second. So this will make it in an array, and it will store all the values. So if I put another promise in this array, so like wait for me, and I don't pass anything here, so it will be rejected immediately. immediately, so you can see. But if we wait for anything else, like let's wait for 2 seconds again, see, we will get two things here. I waited 1 second, I waited 2 seconds. So when would you want to use this? When you want anything, when anything wrong happens, you want that to be catched here, you want that in the catch block, then you will use this Promise.all. so what this will do is whenever something goes wrong, it will be fired immediately, and all these promises are run parallelly. Okay, you understand that? Parallelly means they are all uttered, so it will not like in this async await when we did here. So this was getting around, it was taking 2 seconds or 200 milliseconds after running this, but here that's not the case. So what we are doing here is that we are running parallelly, means we are starting, we are sending all these promises, making requests to these promises at the same time. So let me show you, like even if I type wait for me in the even in the last like 5 second, let's make it 5 seconds and run it again, so it will not wait, like not wait 8 seconds. See, so let me show you again, like let's make all these 5, so all these should be resolved at same time. It shouldn't be taking more than 5 seconds. See, now when we throw an error here, so even if we make it wait 5 seconds and throw an error here, let's see what happens then. Oh no, you did not specify the time. So this proves our point that all of these are being run in parallel. Alright guys, so this was about Promise.all. Okay, so now another, in this we have another thing called Promise.all settled. So what this does is that it waits for every promise to be settled. Let me show you. So I just made it all settled, and see, it waited for every second, like it waited for every promise to be finished, to be fulfilled or rejected. So you can check in the status that it is fulfilled, it is fulfilled. I waited 1 second, I waited 5 seconds, I waited 1 second, and in this status it is rejected. So when you are pushing, when you are doing a large amount of things parallelly and you want all of your data to be seen in this array, then you should definitely use all settled. And at the last what we have is that race. Okay, as from the name you can guess that it just races them all. So whatever is being done first, it just returns it. All right, see the first thing which happened. Oh, you did not specify the time. Okay, and but this is holding the whole node process, guys. It is being run, like it is checking. So if we, whenever, like if we just make it 100 millisecond and we remove this, so and we run it again, see I waited 0.1 second and other promises will be ignored here. So you can use this. This is also a handy method. And what it is doing, it's pretty simple, that it just returns the promises which finishes first. Alright, this is the rat race. One more thing here what we have is that we have also a finally block. What it does is it's pretty simple. No matter what happens, if this runs, if there is an error, but in finally it will make sure that it will run every time you run this function. So let me just show you, like console.log I will always run. Okay, and let's run it. Node promise method.js. So you can see that it just ran I will always run. So it will always run no matter if we give an error also. Like let's give an error, so let's pass and a string, and let's try to get an error. So you did not specify the time, so here it is in the error, but still this function ran. Okay, so I hope you got everything clear. Hey guys, so now at the end I will just show you how we can use async await with this fetch. I will just show this to you in console. I am in this json placeholder.typecode.com. If I run this, we are using just then, and we will just get this user id and title. All right, so this is, you can see that it takes a second before it is, so it is waiting and it is doing that thing. So let's create a function, const run me, and we will do the same but with async and await, and it should be async and nothing. Let's quickly do this, and what we will do here is that we will use fetch, so we can use await with fetch. So let's define const res is equals to await, and we will fetch whatever we want to. You can fetch Google, you can fetch Yahoo, you can fetch YouTube, and we will just copy this URL we will get first to do here, and we can just paste it right here just like this, and we can use then also, but we are not going to. So what we will do here is that it will wait for the fetch to be finished, and it will store that in the res, so we can console log it directly, but we also need to parse it. So what does parsing means? If you have ever used JSON, so what is JSON is the son of JavaScript is JSON. No, it's JavaScript object notation. So this is a very common thing where we use to store data in a format. So let's just do is const JSON equals to res.json. So what this will do is that it will just parse it. Okay, so let's now console dot log it whatever we have. So when we will run me multiple promise, okay, you know guys, shit happens sometimes. So alright, let's bring our function, and to, if you don't know that this res.json is also a promise, so yes, so we need to resolve it by using await. Okay, now run me again. Alright, so you can see we are getting the user data, and you can just put this in try catch block 2, and you can do all sort of stuffs. Alright guys, this is it for this video. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, make sure you smash that like button. If you are new, you can subscribe and press the bell icon. You can also support me on Patreon. Thank you.